Happy Thursday. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage on this Thursday, November the 13th, 2025. And we have a lot of big weather talk today, including bigger storm systems moving across the United States. Three big storms could produce widespread rainfall, severe weather, and heavy early season snow. We're going to be diving into the specifics from coast to coast and from Canada to Mexico, everywhere that you need to know in this forecast. So don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the video by giving it a thumbs up, sharing it, and hyping the video. I definitely appreciate that as well. So let's get into the forecast here and let's zoom it out and talk about the big picture details. We have a big trough here in the East Pacific, noted in the blue and green. We also have another big trough over here off the Northeast and into Nova Scotia and eastern tropical Canada. That's also bringing us some cooler weather, but in between those troughs is a big time ridge of high pressure, and you can see that here delineated with the orange. And that orange is an area where we're going to see lots of sunshine and warmer temperatures really as we head through late week. And notice that ridge continues to build stronger into tomorrow. Those oranges start to get a little bit brighter there into the upper Midwest. And then as we go into the weekend, watch this trough from Canada, from the Northwest Territories, slingshot its way down into Manitoba, into Ontario, and eventually the upper Great Lakes region in the Northeast, and deepen as it does so. That's going to be a bigger storm to watch for the weekend. So any travel plans across the Northeast, we need to keep tabs on the weather forecast. But first, let's talk temperatures because, man, it's going to be a nice warming trend across the United States heading into the weekend. We already see those temperatures today, 30 degrees above normal for the Rockies and the Northern Plains. As we go into tomorrow afternoon, it gets even better. We have 35 degree above normal temperatures favored from the Dakotas, the Black Hills, all the way down through the plains to Texas, the Midwest also included. And then as we go into the weekend, notice that trough that's going to slingshot its way from Canada into the Northeast is going to actually cool our temperatures off for areas near the Great Lakes, Ontario, Quebec, but also again for the Northeast. As we head into the weekend, the warmer air is going to reside further off to the west, and it could be some pretty nice warmth too. Saturday morning, you're waking up on the 15th of November. We could be waking up into the 50s in Chicago there on the lakefront, near 60 there in St. Louis, and into the 60s down in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So the Mississippi Valley going to be waking up here with some very warm temperatures Saturday morning. In contrast, the Northeast feeling more wintry-like with that trough coming in, 20s, even teens to start off the day on Saturday. Here are your highs Saturday afternoon, and notice, man, we have the 90s potentially ticketed for areas in Northwest Texas. Wichita Falls, Abilene, and Lubbock are the areas that could see such temperatures going into Saturday afternoon, and that is one of the warmest days we see during this stretch. So definitely seeing a warm up in store, but also some active weather. So we have a system coming in across the West Coast as we go into today, bringing rainfall primarily from the Pacific Northwest and Washington State and Oregon and into northern and eventually now into central California. And you can see that moisture eventually spreading into Southern California as well and getting into western Arizona, areas that have been quite dry recently. But then we keep tabs to the north on another low pressure that's building in Canada. That's going to have some colder air with it. That could bring a mixed bag of frozen precipitation across areas of Ontario and Quebec. Some of that will be all snow, some of it will be sleet, freezing rain, and even mixing with rain at times. I think rainfall is more likely from the Ohio Valley up here into the Northeast, and I think the closer you move toward the Northeast, the heavier the precipitation rate will be heading through Saturday night and into Sunday. Now, we do have to watch the potential for severe weather here. It's an isolated threat in dark green, including southeastern portions of Ohio, western PA, down here into West Virginia, and a small chunk of northeastern Kentucky. This is mainly going to be for a 60-mile-per-hour wind and quarter-size hail threat. The tornado threat should be very low because a lot of these storms won't have a lot of rotation to acquire. But as we go through through the day on Saturday, we're going to be building up some of that moisture and instability out ahead of that front and potentially seeing some of those storms firing up. Now, they will be isolated, so a lot of us will remain dry, but there could be a storm or two that could produce 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts and quarter-size hail. Again, the tornado threat is exceptionally low here. I think this is going to be a storm that moves from northwest to southeast. You don't typically see tornadoes with storms that move from northwest to southeast. We can, but I don't feel like the tornado threat is that great as we go into Saturday evening. It's a brief window too, from about 4 p.m. to about 8 o'clock. So it's a 4-hour window really of some storm activity. Really begins to fall apart the closer to midnight that we get and after sunset, as you would assume, because the sun does set a lot sooner now. So that means the atmosphere stabilizes a lot sooner at nighttime. But nonetheless, we're going to be seeing some pretty heavy rainfall here across the west. California in particular, we could be seeing areas near Los Angeles getting around 4 inches of rainfall straight through the weekend. And flooding concerns may be something to watch out here into California. Some inland moisture into the Rockies will be possible, although the amounts will start to lower. And then across the Northeast, we're going to be seeing some moisture as well, mainly tied to that system slingshotting out of Canada and into the Northeast, the Ohio Valley, especially the eastern Ohio Valley and down the Appalachians. That's where the moisture will be. But the central U.S., pretty dry because of that ridge of high pressure, lots of sunshine and warmer than normal temperatures by far heading through the weekend. Snowfall, yeah, we're going to be seeing that in the Sierras, potentially on the order of a couple of feet here. So get ready for some snow there in the watershed out west. And we're also going to be seeing a few to several inches of accumulation in northern Maine up toward the Caribou area. We could potentially be seeing upwards to 6 inches of snowfall for Saturday night and into Sunday. So maybe some shoveling and plowing to be had up there going into the weekend itself. Now let's back out the picture, zoom it out for you, and show you the jet stream, because this is very important. This is what you're looking for storm systems. Notice that we see off the west coast a lot of buckling going on with the jet stream, and look how far south it goes too. It's going to be grabbing that Pacific moisture from the Pacific Ocean and pumping it up here like a fire hose into the central United States, heading into the middle of next week. And look at the big time trough that we have out here across the west. Whenever you have a ridge in the east and trough in the west, that's a big signal for an active weather pattern across the lower 48. We got the blocking up here with the big high pressure in Greenland that's forcing the cooler air southward and into the western United States. So we're going to have that temperature battle zone. We're going to have a warmer than normal temperature pattern here across the central and southern U.S. And then across the west, especially for areas of California and Nevada, we're going to be well below normal with our temperatures next week. This is Monday, November 17th, straight through the 21st there of November. And you can see it's going to be a very active weather pattern. I feel that trough will be coming in out west and eventually ejecting parts of that trough into the central U.S. And that will give us above normal rains and even snows across the central U.S. as well. I think the eastern seaboard will see a drier pattern, not completely dry, but I think we're going to see a drier pattern from Maine to Florida and everywhere in between on the east coast into next week. So we look here at the pattern, a lot of energy coming in across the west, across the Sierras, across the Rockies, and notice as we go into next Tuesday, that will be moving into the central United States here, potentially some rain shower, thunderstorm activity there with the warm front lifting north as we go across the Ozarks region of Missouri and near the Ohio River Basin, and then southward from there. A larger storm system that we've been keeping an eye on for several days now in my videos. I think the 20th through the 22nd of the month, we got to watch out for a stronger low pressure here emanating off of that trough and really deepening across portions of the Midwest. The warm side would put it across the mid and lower Mississippi Valley region here, and that could bring the threat for severe weather here to some of these areas. NIU over there, the accumulated supercell composite parameter space, very high, where you see the yellows, oranges, and reds. That's where we have the parameters coming together: moisture, instability, wind shear, suitable for severe weather and tornadic activity. And that is favored from south central and into coastal Texas, east Texas, and then up there into Louisiana mostly. But notice there's still some colors as far north as the Ohio River. So that is something we're going to watch as we get into the 20th, 21st, and 22nd there of November. But that's not it. We have another system on its heels that could take a similar path, getting closer towards the late portion of next weekend from the 23rd through the 25th. This is all prior to Thanksgiving. In similar areas here in the path of severe weather, we got a colder side with either colder rains or maybe some snowfall there as we get closer there towards Thanksgiving, and yet maybe another system by the time we have Thanksgiving travel. So looking here at the first system into the middle of next week, this is going to pull some moisture northward from the Gulf, and it's going to be open streams all the way up to the Ohio River with dew points getting into the 50s and low 60s. In this time of year, that is plenty for severe weather. We look at the instability here and how high that could go as we go into the middle of next week. Plenty of instability out here. Notice that's why Texas and Louisiana have those brighter reds that we showed you for the parameters coming together. You have the moisture, dew points in the 60s, a lot of instability over 2,000 joules per kilogram. And another ingredient, you have to have the wind shear. Look at the buckling of the jet stream here, and you can see we're going to see one buckle there by the time we get to Wednesday, Thursday, 19th, 20th of November. And then we have another buckle in the jet stream. This one could be much stronger and more organized once we get to next weekend there on the 22nd, 23rd of November. So that is something we're watching. Two big storms that could produce severe weather in similar locations. And you can see this here, that we could have potentially an overnight threat for severe weather. This does include the DFW Metroplex up toward Texarkana and Little Rock, getting into the boot heel of Missouri there Wednesday evening on the 19th. Now we are going to be keeping an eye on the placement of this. This could shift around in the next couple days, but get an idea that potentially even down here near the lower Mississippi Valley region, from Memphis down to Jackson and even into Baton Rouge, New Orleans, we have to keep an eye on that next Thursday on the 20th. And then that next system coming in, the placement is a little bit more up in the air on this one, but definitely looking to be an active stretch of severe weather heading through next weekend. So that could produce some pretty heavy rainfall, with both systems potentially producing upwards of 6 inches of rain from the Illinois Valley all the way back down here into northeast Texas, including parts of southeastern Oklahoma, Arkansas, and southern Missouri, including the Ozarks. So make sure that you are prepared for any potential of severe weather, flash flooding, and anything like that here across the middle of the country heading into next weekend. On the cold side, the European model is all in on the mountainous snow out west, Rockies, Sierras, and Cascades. A little bit of accumulating snow potentially in the Dakotas here, potentially going through next weekend itself. The GFS model a little bit further south, a little bit colder of a solution, so it has that snow line a little bit further south into Nebraska, the Hawkeye State of Iowa, and perhaps northern Illinois. So be keeping a close eye on that. Going through this weekend, we could potentially be seeing some gustier winds across the west, so watching out for those in the Rockies. Also, with that system slingshotting from Canada into the northeast, could bring some gustier winds around 30, maybe 40 mile per hour wind gusts at times there across coastal areas of the northeast, Long Island included, as we go through the weekend. But very windy it will be as we round out the month of November, as those bigger systems we're talking about getting closer to Thanksgiving get closer. It's going to be kicking up those winds, and we definitely could be seeing those southerly winds howling as we go into late November, over 40 miles per hour in a large chunk of the eastern United States. We look to the neighbors to the north. In Canada, we look at the weather here, and it looks to be a little bit active here early, where we could be seeing some snowfall as we head into the weekend across central Canada. But I do feel a lot of the activity is going to be further south into the United States as we get closer to the late portion of November. So I think our one and only shot for a more organized, notable storm system, we'll be heading into the weekend across Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and over here into Ontario and toward the Hudson Bay. That's where we could be seeing some few inches, several inches of accumulating snow for central Canada going through the next weekend. This is over the next 10 days or so through the 24th, and you can see it's going to be a warmer pattern here. It doesn't mean it's going to be warm for rain. I think it's going to be warmer than normal in Canada, still be cold enough for snow as we go over the next 10 days or so. Now, long-range forecasts across all of North America. This is intriguing. As we get into Thanksgiving and then post-Thanksgiving, getting towards the start of December, we're going to have a big shot of cold air, I think, filling in across the western United States and western Canada. We have a ridge of high pressure building in Alaska, so that means that colder air up to the north near the Arctic has to dislodge somewhere, and I think it dislodges further south into the western United States, west of the Mississippi River, and it sets up this battleground because we're going to have a ridge in the east. So you got a ridge in the east of the United States, trough in the west, and that battleground right in between in the plains and Midwest. That's where we could see a lot of activity as we go into late November for Thanksgiving, post-Thanksgiving, and then into early December. I think it could get fairly active here into the central United States, and so much active with cold air and precipitation that only points to one thing, and that is snow. And we could be seeing a more significant snowstorm that is pretty noteworthy here from the plains, especially up here towards the Dakotas and Nebraska, and then into the upper Midwest like Minnesota. We'll be keeping an eye on that, and then that exits out through Canada into Ontario and Quebec going into that first few days of December. So that is a trend. It's not a guarantee at this point. It's a trend. So we're going to be keeping an eye on that into the early start of December. Thank you all for watching. I hope you found this video informative, and if you did, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we're going to keep you updated on all of these storms and all of the warmth and cold that we have to see and offer to the United States as we go through the end of the month. So make sure to subscribe to the channel. We cover Canada, we cover the United States and the tropics. Like the video and share it, and also hype it up. Make sure to press the hype button on here. Appreciate it. Thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful, safe rest of your Thursday out there.